Bom dia. We're starting very, very softly. Okay?
Okay.
Isto
Let's play the game.
innovar. Is this innovative? Good. You know what it is? It's a paper clip, right? Why is it innovative? Huh? No. Not me. This. Is this innovative? No?
We don't know.
Who thinks it's innovative?
Maybe not.
Yeah? Why? Yeah? So it's a horizontal filing system, you could say. Maybe it was innovative when it was created. Is this innovative? Hands up. You think so? Anybody else? Why is it innovative? In the past it was. Okay, so innovation is something about time. Do you know how many of these big biros are sold each day? 14 million per day. They must be doing something that's innovative. They've been doing this for the last 25 years, 14 million a day. The ingredients inside this have changed 1,500 times. Nobody told us. We just kept using them. And incremental small steps. Is this innovative? No? Why not? Why is it not innovative? Because it's unhealthy? Because it's dangerous? So is innovation something which should do us something good? Is innovation... No? So some of us are saying no because maybe we have some values attached to it. So innovation may be something to do with value. Mm-hmm. This is zip. A zipper. Is that innovative? It was in 1950. Again, a time dimension. Imagine how long it would take us in the bathroom if we didn't have zippers, or to get dressed in the morning, or to close our bags and so forth. Okay? This is a Danish invention. It's a clap hat. So you put it on your head and you pull and it... Innovative? Not really. It's pretty useless, huh? So innovation should be useful, maybe. How about the alphabet? The alphabet, or language, or grammar. I guess this is a big innovation. Mm-hmm. Maybe next time I come to Brazil, I can speak a little bit of Portuguese, and that would be an innovation for me. Then I could converse better with you. So innovation is maybe something which is time-dependent. It's something which is, we have values created to it. It's something which is relative, because not everybody was in agreement with what was and what wasn't innovative. Now I ask you, was this innovative? Mm-hmm. So, is innovation a result or is it a process? A process? Okay? So, even if the result at the end of the day isn't enormously radical and enormously different, maybe the process and the attitude towards doing whatever we're doing can also be innovative. So I have a very, very clear distinction between innovative processes and innovative products and results. And both are as important as each other. Why did I have this little exercise? Well, firstly, I guess I'm one of the reasons that this is called International. And then, even though I didn't understand what was being spoken about yesterday, I don't think anybody tried to define what innovation is, or we took it for granted. But now at least I have an idea as to what you're thinking innovation is and what innovativeness could be. And I'm going to talk about eco-innovation in small to medium-sized companies over the next minutes. Mm-hmm. So, before I can do this, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm not going to give you the traditional presentation of how many hundreds and thousands of people in the university. I'm going to tell you about a normal day in the life of Tim McAloone. So when I started at the university, where I've been for 16 years now, my boss said to me, this is what you need to know and nothing else. 50% teaching, 50% research. That's it. Mm-hmm. That was easy. I could spend 50% of my time teaching, 50% of research. Nothing in the hour, just that was it. 4 years later, they came along and said, plus 50% innovation. Not minus 50% other percents, but plus 50% innovation. What's innovation? And everybody started to say, what is innovation? The university was measuring innovation in how many patents we created. One of the worst measures of innovation you could actually imagine today. But some years later, now I've been there for 16 years, so 12 years after the university told me that I should also focus on innovation, we have things like this. This is a gift to the students from the university. It's the students' playground. It's called the Skylab. This is where they create innovation activities. The university pays with full-time staff and equipment and expects them to do something innovative. We don't know what. We're measuring everything. We're measuring how many people are going in and out of this building. We're measuring how many startup companies come out. We're measuring how many innovations in the form of patents are coming out. We're measuring many, many things. But one thing which is happening is that the university, since they started to really invest in innovation, and that is at the student level as well as the staff level, we're starting to see many, many exciting results. This Skylab is quite new. We've prototyped it, in fact, in true innovation style. We've prototyped it in an old building, which has now been torn down. And now we have this Skylab, which has different spaces for co-creation and design, and a new one on a chemical lab. They didn't put it in the region of mechanical engineering because they said, well, mechanical engineering students go there anyway. So we'll put it in the chemistry engineering part of the university. Maybe some chemical engineers will come, and they'll start to work together. So we have spaces here for co-creation, spaces for the new chemical lab, which hasn't been taken into use yet. We have mechatronics labs, rapid prototyping, and I've seen this is going on at your university as well, and it's extremely exciting to encourage this. These two guys here, Adam and Christian, they've just started a company based upon their master's project. This is creating a temperature gauge for UNICEF to make sure that more vaccines get to the children. On the back of that, they started a company. This is Christina. She's one of my PhD students, and she's a full-time member of staff at this Skylab now, working there. This is Fenja, Icelandic student of mine. She just goes to work there because she likes the buzz inside this place. And she thinks that maybe by osmosis or by some other reason she'll get some innovative contamination, you could say. And it's working as well. She's in lots of different startup projects. How do we support innovation at the university? Well, on the student level, we have courses on innovation, and this was the Skylab. We have many other organizations, internally and externally. This is based upon our own fundamental technology research, but then every single department at the university now, since the last 2 years, has an innovation agent. So one of my colleagues is the innovation agent, knitting the students, the staff, and industry together, and it's working. We have tech-trans activities, and then a lot of commercialization activities going on as well. And Scion DTU, that is one of our science parks. It's an incubator where this Skylab is located right next door to the Scion. So this is what we're doing on a university level. One example of another new project came out of an undergraduate course where we take technology and introduce it to the students and say, make an innovation, make a business plan for it. And 80% don't actually become anything, but a lot of them become finalists or winners of one very important competition called Venture Cup, which is a Danish national competition where you win startup money to get your business going. This is a wind gauge which you plug into your smartphone based upon DTU patent, DTU technology, and embodied through the design process, through the synthesis to an innovation. So that was innovation. And now I'm slowly getting to the point of my talk. A couple of years later, they said, 50% more public sector consultancy. You can do things good for the commercial sector, but we'd also like you to increase the work you're doing for the public sector, government agencies, NGOs, and so forth. And we've been working with UNICEF and UNEP and the Danish Environment Agency, the American Environment Agency, and that is also counted. So these are the four measures that I have as a member of staff. And then there's lots of things which I'm told to do, and I can send you these slides later. We don't have time to go through them. But I have increasing amounts of performance indicators. The reason I'm showing this to you is because I'm going to show you a case in a second of eco-innovation in small to medium-sized companies, and it's based upon this framework that I could judge that this is an important project, and how can we put our competencies into the project. But on public sector consultancy, we should transfer our research to public aid. We should do training. We should help them with some campaigns. We should work on actual projects they're working on. We should work with the different types of agencies. We should transfer our methodologies, which otherwise would just stay into a journal paper, out into the public sector. And we should create high-impact results. I'll come back to that diagram in a second. So, now to the point, eco-innovation in small to medium-sized companies. We were approached by UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, a couple of years ago because they're working on a project supported financially by the European Union, but also themselves in terms of their own time, on we need to create eco-innovation to make a big change in the way in which industry is having an effect on the environmental footprint that industrial activities are having. So I took my public sector consultancy hat on and said, well, what is this? What type of project is this? Well, it's something which is transferring the research that we've been doing on eco-innovation and on innovation generally into the public sector. They were asking us to do a project to train a number of people, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes. They asked us to create a methodology in a manual. It was UNEP, and the results should be groundbreaking. We should have radical innovation results from this project. And they paid us to do it. But then, for me as an academic, I need to say, how does that go back into my innovation activities? Can I help some students or to create a business on this? Can I help the companies we're working with to strengthen their businesses? Teaching. Can I take the methodology I'm applying in UNEP into my teaching? Yes, I can. And then, can I research on this? Are there some papers to be had out of this? Definitely. So this is the way in which we operate at the university. We can start at any point on this four-pronged model, but we should make sure that as many of the four strands are covered as possible. And that's simply the way in which our university does its work. UNEP's starting point for this project was the Global Environment Outlook number 5 activity, which concluded in 2012. And I don't want to depress you on a Friday morning, but the results were quite astounding. Greenhouse gas emissions to double in the next 50 years. Urban use will require 100 to 200 million hectares of land over the next 40 years because of population growth and urbanization. Do you know how much 200 hectares is? It's a quarter of the area of Brazil. So in the next 40 years, a quarter of the area of Brazil is going to be needed for urbanization. This isn't as much a threat. This is a fact. This is happening. How do we deal with this? We're having a high rate of forest loss because of urbanization, because of other activities. We have alarming water scarcity, which affects people in certain regions. I think I've heard a lot of people talking about the rain or the lack of rain here in Brazil. A rise in sea levels for a very flat and little country like Denmark, this means a lot. We're seeing lots more flooding than we've ever seen before. Critical habitats continue to be endangered. And underlying this, a lack of data to document the risk to human health. This was just a selection which UNEP pulled out of 90 environmental goals which they have in this global environmental outlook activity. And only 4 of those goals could they report any progress on. So they saw, well, we've been supporting resource efficiency and cleaner production and all these different things over the last 25 years. UNEP and UNIDO have created a most amazing network of consultants around the world called National Cleaner Production Centers. There's many in Brazil as well. I've seen them. I've met them. And in Latin America in general, there are a lot of national cleaner production centers. But UNEP themselves are saying we can't save the world if we keep just doing cleaner production at the end of pipe. We need to do something very different at the start. We need to think innovatively. We need to set our goals extremely radically and do very different activities. And this was the starting point for the project that we worked together with with UNEP on. This is also a slide from UNEP. Population growth, rising lifestyles, resource use, consumption, all contributing to the situation we're in at the moment. Don't worry, it's going to get positive in a minute. Let's just take population growth. I did this slide exactly 2 years ago for a similar presentation. And at that time, the world's population had just reached 7 billion people. 7 billion. And there's projections for the world's population growth. And you can see that depending on which model we're going to follow, maybe it will actually level out. It's not going to go down for the foreseeable, but maybe by 2040, if everybody becomes extremely affluent, this is one way of getting through the lower middle class barrier into a type of affluence which is less material intensive. But for the next foreseeable future, the population is going to continue to grow. Look at the green figures. That was 2 years ago. Yesterday, I measured it again. 272 million more people have arrived on the earth in the last 2 years. Do you know how many that is? It's Brazil, plus Uruguay, plus Paraguay, plus Argentina, plus Chile. Population together. In 2 years, that many more people have arrived on the earth. So whether you believe in global warming, in greenhouse gas emissions, or anything like that, even if you don't believe in this, this is a fact. So resource depletion is a definite, not a threat, it's a promise. This is going to happen. So how do we engage and change this? Some professors in the US, Gradle and Allenby, in the early 90s made a formula for environmental impact called the IPAT formula. They said that the I, which is the total impact from environment, is equal to population, the P, A, affluence, which they're measuring by the gross domestic product per person, multiplied by the environmental effect of technology, which is the measurable environmental effect divided by the unit of GDP. This is more of a mind model than a mathematical one, so don't test this out on anybody. But the idea is that where can we alter? Population? Well, who do we ask to change population? China have done their bit, but can we really expect a population activity? Affluence? Would any of us like to be less affluent? Difficult one to try and get through. So we're left with technology. How do we bring down the environmental effect of technology? And this is where UNEP started this project as well, to see how can we help particularly small to medium-sized companies to increase the efficiency of the technology they're creating and make significant environmental and sustainability impacts in a positive direction. They've also created a series of risks to convince the busy CEO of any company, saying, well, resource scarcity, price volatility of commodities, and so forth, some risk issues you need to be taking into consideration. Regulation's only going to get more and more stringent. I saw a presentation on Tuesday this week in Copenhagen from a Chinese government representative. And that was the first time I've ever seen such an open presentation from China. And they're basically presenting planned laws which are very similar to the European environmental legislation, which is the hardest legislation in the world. This is a promising activity. And the markets will change because more people, different types of materials, different types of products are available or necessary. I won't dwell on this one, but my domain is product development. And I work with people who make products. So my research object is companies, is industry. And you can say, well, what responsibility do we actually have for the product? We can make the most environmentally conscious escalator in the world, but if it's installed just in front of a fitness club where we could actually be warming up, going up the steps. So do we have a responsibility for just the product or the whole of the product's life cycle? And of course the answer is that the whole of the product life cycle is what I tell the students and what I tell companies. When you walk out this door, you have responsibility now, not just for the good product, but for the good product life cycle. UNEP have defined eco-innovation in this way, saying that if we do singular interventions to small product changes or production processes, basically they're saying what we've been helping companies to do over the last 25 years, we're now saying this is just tinkering around the edges. We're doing small adjustments, but it's not going to save the world. They've decided that interventions implemented from the level of the core business strategy, rethinking supply chains, and with company business model which mainstreams sustainability throughout all business operations and captures value from creating novel solutions is what we call eco-innovation. It's an enormous step for the United Nations environmental program or environment program to take. This is what they're seeing as the goal. So eco-innovation should allow for new ways of addressing current and future sustainability challenges in industry. So what is the definition of eco-innovation? There's many. Let's take one of them from James from some time ago, from 1997. Eco-innovation aims to develop new products and processes which provide customer and business value but significantly decrease environmental impact. Let's take that into a university situation for a second or two. What does that mean? Well, if we decompose that sentence and say, develop new products and processes, that could be engineering design, product development, providing customer and business value, strategy and management, but significantly decrease environmental impact, then we need some environmental science activities. So we have all the ingredients in universities. How do we get that ingredients out into industry and to help them to eco-innovate rather than just tinker around the edges, was the question that UNEP asked at the beginning of this project. And then you can start to look at what does eco-innovation have inside. It has technology strategy, creativity, which is nice. We have a creativity presentation after here, front end of innovation, simplified life cycle assessment methods, and so on and so forth. How do we organize all these things into some methodological approach which is going to be usable by a very small company? This is a challenge, bridging all this knowledge we have into a company which has never even considered to do cleaner production before, maybe. So, what did UNEP do? They hired some consultants. They hired Tanya from Denmark to do a business case for eco-innovation. This manual is now available. Then they employed us at DTU to write an eco-innovation core manual. We spent the last year and a half writing this. It's now published in draft form. And you can see a fellow countryman, Daniela. She's a trusted and prized postdoc with us. Jamie was the main author of this manual, but the four of us worked on this project. And then they focused on 3 sectors, on agri-foods, on metals, and on chemicals. So these are 3 sectors which are of particular interest for UNEP. This project was to do eco-innovation on small to medium-sized companies in emerging economies. So 5 regions of the world: East Asia, West Asia in the Middle East, Southern and Eastern Europe, Africa, and Latin America and the Caribbean area. These are the 5 regions we were looking at, and we used this National Cleaner Production Center network called the RecipeNet, Resource Efficiency and Cleaner Production Network, as the catalyst for this activity. So the business case for eco-innovation, that document is now available on UNEP's website. And interestingly, here we get to the small to medium-sized company part. Eco-innovative companies around the world are growing at an average rate of 15% per year. So out with the idea that environment is going to cost us money and that compliance is going to be expensive. If you do it right, you get an opportunity for business. This is a really, really compelling story. Secondly, small to medium-sized enterprises are particularly responsive to eco-innovation. We heard yesterday a little bit about the cumbersome nature of larger organizations because of their sheer size and the flexibility of small companies. So here's another enormous opportunity. And that's great because in most cases, 70% of GDP in many countries, especially in emerging economies, is coming from small to medium-sized enterprises, and 2/3 of the formal employment comes from small to medium-sized enterprises. So another good reason to focus on small to medium-sized enterprises. A couple of examples. In South Africa, a small to medium-sized enterprise is supplying solar energy to rural communities. And in 3 years, they've tripled their size as an organization, and they've moved to neighboring countries. Another example, a small manufacturer of cleaning products, so chemical products for cleaning, have created new products based upon or less harmful chemicals. They've seen an annual revenue growth of 10 to 25% every year over the last 10 years. They're now no longer a small to medium-sized company. They've grown so large through their success. And this 10 years, every single one of their competitors has experienced a flat market. So none of their competitors have grown at all, and the market for cleaning products hasn't grown greatly over the last 10 years, but they've seen a 10 to 25% increase through taking an eco-innovation approach. And the good news is there's many, many other examples, and this book has some examples in it. And over the course of this project, the last 18 months, we've been collecting examples from the different regions, which I'll share with you a little bit later. The business case has these basic 5 compelling arguments why we're going to get added value from eco-innovation. I could spend a lecture on each one of these, but I'm going to spend 20 seconds on each one. First, it should give access to new and expanding markets. So eco-innovation should give the possibility to reach out to very new, different markets. It should increase our profitability along the whole value chain. So not just looking internally at our own business and the manufacturing process and how to make that less environmentally harmful, but how can we create more value through our competencies and the raw materials we're getting through our factory in the whole value chain. Thirdly, staying ahead of standards and regulations is a good idea for small companies because often when companies are forced to comply after regulation is being brought in, really sets them back in terms of their innovation competences. There are many examples of how to attract investment for eco-innovation. There are sustainable banks, there are sustainable investors, there are corporate partnerships which you can do, and many university company relationships also provide some sort of a manpower investment as well. And then finally, it should increase the productivity and the technical capacity of the organization. So this capacity building to think smart, think differently, and think innovatively in terms of how to be sustainably performing rather than just performing to make a profit. So this is the main story from the whole baseline work on the project for us, from the business case. And then we created this manual based upon that the business case, and here's just the covers. The manual will be available next week from UNEP's website. A manual and a toolbox with many, many tools that you can pick and choose as you like for eco-innovation. The main philosophy here is that we start with a sustainability mindset, and with that sustainability mindset, we look at what is our business strategy. So how does a small to medium-sized company see, what is my business strategy? Do I continue to grow and wash and process mango? Or do I have a strategy to completely transform my waste stream into a raw material or into a product? So all of the rests that come from mango production, for example, can I make it into cosmetic products, or can I dry the skins and make them into other types of products for different supply chains? So thinking differently, what is my basic business strategy? And then what is the business model? How am I going to create a good business model which is going to work? And then finally, what are the operations like? How am I going to operate this on an everyday situation? And importantly, around this is to take a life cycle approach. Not just look at my own activities, but look at the whole life cycle. And what does that mean? Well, it means everything from raw materials, distribution, manufacture, a bit more distribution, product usage, a bit more distribution, end of life. Maybe if we're unlucky, the product will go to disposal, but if we're lucky and do things right, we can recycle it and distribute it and make more raw materials. So this life cycle approach is absolutely vital for eco-innovation. This is going to save the world by taking a life cycle approach. So this is some of the activities. We've been around the 5 regions of the world now. We've had 7 workshops over the last year and a half looking together. These are national cleaner production centers. So these are experts in their own country. Each region we come to, there's between 10 and 15 countries represented by at least 1, normally 3, experts in cleaner production and resource efficiency. And if we're really lucky, we're getting people from innovation hubs around the regions as well. We have a series of activities which we're trying out inside these workshops with these experts. And these are just some of the tools from the manual we're using. And from all different types of setups. So the Middle East is very different to Latin America. There's not much agri-food in the Middle East, and there's a lot in Latin America. East Asia is very different to West Asia in terms of the types of the way businesses are set up. So we've learned a great deal by prototyping this and trying it out inside the organizations. Very briefly, this is the methodology for the eco-innovation activity. So we have a methodology which looks quite, not very cyclical, but of course the nature is you should be able to use this in an iterative process from prepare, set strategy, business model, build a roadmap, implement, and review. Each of these phases has an overview, the main content, a checklist, some supporting tools, and then references and resources in the manual. And the training we'd do on a Wednesday, on the first day of a workshop, we'd train in the first parts of the manual in plenum, and then our sector supplement experts would come in the agri-foods, chemicals, and metals, and then on the second day, and do some training, particularly in those different areas, so they would get people very specifically trained in the sector of their interest. And then we'd meet back on the third day to look at the final things in plenum. So walking through one particular phase, when you fold it out in a different direction than this one, we're seeing activities, tools, and deliverables, stepping through each along the way. But the idea is to use this manual in a way which is completely flexible to the user themselves, to the cleaner production center, to use together with the small to medium-sized companies. This is an example of a tool in the toolbook. And then we walk through the different phases of the manual step by step. And it's easier for you to read this after this presentation than it is to do it here. A couple of notes on business model generation. Anybody seen the business model canvas before? Yeah. So very, very briefly, this is the new black in business modeling. So rather than write a 30-page business plan, just do it on one canvas, looking at what is my value proposition, what do the customers want out, who are my customers, what are my relationships and the channels, and what's my revenue, and then what is the supply side, who are the key partners, what are the key activities, and what are the key resources I'm going to use, and what are the costs. So main value, demand side, supply side, and how do these balance up? We've used this a lot in the project. We brought our own examples. This is an example from one of our colleagues from the university in Denmark, where he's made bicycle lamps without batteries. So it's an induction lamp with magnets inducing LEDs. And this guy, here they are on the bike, this guy was very interested in the value proposition, but he had no idea at all as to how to make this into a business. So how do you take a good idea for something which is environmentally radically different, no more batteries over the 10-year life cycle of a bicycle lamp? A lot of improvements there. Very small product, but if you think that 35% of people in Denmark cycle to work each day, 55% in Copenhagen, then there's a lot of batteries we're saving from the waste stream. But then we need to get people to help him to build the rest of the business model around this. This guy sold his idea to a company, to an investor, And the investor said, in order to be eco-innovative or innovative generally, we need to eat, swim fast, or get eaten. We need to constantly innovate. Constantly. This means that we could take a defensive IPR strategy and patent everything, but it would still get copied anyway. So that's not a good strategy. We could have a user dialogue and see what does the user want and continue to innovate on the user's requests, but also bring in our expertise on the environmental and sustainability benefits. And or we could take an offensive innovation strategy where we, as soon as we finish with the first innovation, we become serial innovators. And this is what we're trying to train through the manual, is how to create serial eco-innovation through small to medium-sized companies. We also learn from failures. Anybody know the company Better Place? This was an idea or a business looking at electric cars which have an interchangeable battery. When you go into not a petrol station but a battery station, they would come out and they would change the battery all under the car. You could get about 450 kilometers on one battery, go to a new charging station, and you'd change the battery out. This is a Tesla from California. Exactly the same principle. These are the cars. There's a Renault Fluence and a Tesla car. Rather middle-of-the-road family car and a very cheeky, sexy sports car. This business went bankrupt, and this business is having growing pains. How on earth did they do it? So we need to understand as well on the pitfalls of what does the right business model mean for the eco-innovation. So we're taking failures up and celebrating learning from failures in this area and comparing different ideas. In fact, this charging station here was announced on the day that this company went bankrupt, and they're doing very well in developing this today. Just a different business model. I need to close off now because of time. So, the roadshow, this was Hanoi. This was our first workshop in 2013, trying out some of these methods and tools. Then we were in Amman in April. Very different situation. Took the roadshow to Prague, learned a lot more about the manual, and then concretized the manual that I'm presenting to you today. And then we started a more training-type activity. We went to UNEP's headquarters in Nairobi. Very, very innovative environment there. Panama, we have the Panama Canal here. That wasn't bad. It would have been nice to have had some time to visit it, but this is the Latin American and Caribbean region. And then last week in Beijing, the final implementation there. And all of these people are key resources in their own countries. Here we have about 12 countries from the East Asia region represented. And the project now goes to training national cleaning production centers, but also some innovation hubs around the globe, and then encouraging cases from the participants. We came with our cases from the Northwestern Hemisphere, and these guys were saying, give us some cases we understand. So we created a little prize, just for fun. One of our major cases in the manual is a company called the Tasty Tuna Company. So I found at a flea market in Denmark some fake tunas, and we give this as an award and say to the guys, all the participants, you're invited to come with your eco-innovation pitch and pitch it in 2 minutes. And at the end of the workshop, which is a 3-day workshop, everybody gets to vote on their favorite case. And it's amazing the enthusiasm which comes out of this activity. So we now have over 50 eco-innovation cases from the experts in cleaner production and the innovation hubs. And I can share some of the Latin American ones with you if you're interested later. You can have a copy of all of them. So this is one of the prize winners from Panama, and before we saw a prize winner from the Africa region. So where are we now with the manual? The business case for eco-innovation is completed and published. The Eco-Innovation Core Manual is now completed, and a draft is published, and the accompanying tools compendium is published. All the green is my university's contribution. And just now, the 3 sector supplement experts are applying the methodology in the 3 regions, the three sector areas within 3 regions around the world. And the idea is within 18 months, they should come with at least 5 eco-innovation business startups within 18 months. So in 18 months' time, we should have 15 cases of eco-innovation from small to medium-sized companies in 3 regions of the world. And in fact, Latin America is one of the regions. And then after that, we'll come back on the project and finalize the manual according to what these guys have learned when they've been applying it in the field. So, to a reflection, from a university perspective, this certainly fits what I'm asked to do at a university. And I'm currently now, when we're finished doing the manual, reflecting on what are the research insights we got from this? How can we compare the different regions? What is eco-innovation in general in terms of the natural discourse? How can I get this into my teaching and master projects and so forth? We could make a series of 10 commandments for how the research in engineering design community could affect eco-innovation. I won't go into these in detail now because of time. From a business perspective, the companies can clearly see, and the ones we're working with on the product can clearly see the business perspective here from these at least 5 compelling arguments to do eco-innovation. And from a sustainability perspective, well, I could show many pictures here for sustainability, but I'm going to leave this one with you. This is the Muir Glacier. On the left-hand side, a photograph taken 13th of August, 1941. And this is a glacier in North of America. And some 63 years later, here we have the glacier. And this is exactly the same vantage point. This is what's happening around the world. So from a sustainability perspective, we can see there's certainly a need to do it. And sustainability, of course, is environmental, it's social, and it's economic. And all 3 of those motivations should be in place if we're going to be successful. Obrigado.
Américo, trabalho aí na área de sustentabilidade, lecionando e auxiliando algumas empresas. Well, Tina, first of all, congratulations for your work on eco-innovation. And is there any Brazilian institution taking part in this initiative? I mean, a national cleaner production national center or innovation hub, and in positive case, which is, and negative case, how can you take part in this initiative, on the UNEP initiative?
Okay. Yes. So Senai have been involved in the projects. So when we came to the Latin American region, we had representatives from Senai, but also from USP, and from, I can't remember, I think it was another division of Senai in the south of Brazil who were represented in this work. And they came with some cases as well from Brazilian SMEs in eco-innovation. So that's the level of involvement that's been so far. The project, as it is at the moment, is that they've now chosen countries within the different regions to do the next phase in the 3 sectors. And in the Latin American region, it's Colombia and Peru, which are continuing for the next 18 months. But after that, within the so-called Recipe Net, the Resource Efficiency and Cleaner Production Network, the different results will be shared with the cleaner production centers, and then there'll be an invite to openly apply the methodology. So.
Okay, thank you. One more question, please.
Thank you. Professor Chin, I would like to ask you if
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Once
again.
Okay, Joseph Avila. And I would like to ask you if you have some relationship with the nice movement in the Danish fashion movement that is helping also in Ono.
Yes. So we don't have a formal relationship with the NICE movement, but I know who they are and I know which projects they're working on, and they have a very tight Scandinavian network. And I saw some of the colleagues from there on Monday, Tuesday this week at a Sustainable Innovation Conference. So it's very interesting what they're doing. This particular project that I've focused on and that I presented is looking at emerging economies. But at the end of the project, I think that the work that we've done is just as applicable for any type of company in any part of the world. So I'll certainly be speaking with the NICE movement as well about applying the manual there as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Meu nome é Sérgio Mancini, sou do Centro Universitário Senac. Professor Tim, as eco-innovation is related to the subject of sustainability, and is more related to the part of environmental part of the subject, how do you deal with this social part in your work?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. So
Estão juntos.
we discussed the title a lot, and in fact the project was financed by the European Union. So a lot of the funding came from the European Union, and it was a call on eco-innovation. When you look inside the manual, we're talking very much about the environmental, social, and economic issues. And I think we're still weighting heavily on the environmental side, but we have a very clear description of the social improvements and social activities, enhancing activities you can do within an eco-innovation project. All of the business cases that we've collected, we have rejected them if they didn't have a social and economical aspect there as well. So we're very clearly taking those in. I'd say some of of course, at some stage, when you're looking at environmental issues, you need to become relatively quantitative and start to do some assessments and so forth. So they're a set of tools which are on their own. But I'd say that quite a few of the different tools and techniques we have in the manual are taking in the stakeholders and understanding the stakeholders' perspective. What are the social issues? What are the working conditions? What are the empowering business models we can think of? So there's actually quite a focus on all three areas of sustainability: the environment, the social, and the economic. So we think we've balanced it okay, but it would have been nice if it was called sustainable innovation. But that's the dominant phrase is eco-innovation. Yeah.
Okay, just to conclude, I'd like to send you a question. Did you mention in your presentation the concept of eco-design, and after that, I believe that there was an upgrade to eco-innovation, and after that, eco-business. When you're talking about sustainability in general, what do you think concerning to the maybe a new production paradigm? The same as we migrate from the mass production paradigm to the flexible and lean production paradigm. Yeah. Do you think that we are in the transition to a new paradigm, a sustainable paradigm, or sustainable production paradigm?
Yeah, this is what I dream about at night time. So
yes.
This is what I'd like us to think we are. The reason we don't really mention eco-design that much is that many of the companies we're working with in this project, and many of the companies which are creating wealth for many societies around the world, aren't doing any form of design or product development activities. They're doing processing, they're doing some form of value adding which doesn't have anything to do with the product development process. So eco-design is one tool which you can use in one type of organization in one particular circumstance. So we've had to leave that on a shelf and put it in a compartment for that type of company that has some type of a synthesis activity towards product development. Eco-innovation goes much broader than that. It's saying what are from a strategic business perspective, how can we see sustainability in all three dimensions as being a driver for creating new value, new wealth, and new business. And from the mango processing company all the way over to the small Vietnamese bicycle manufacturer, there are different things you can do there. The network which exists at the moment for this resource efficiency and cleaner production is extremely expert in going in and analyzing existing production processes and seeing how can we do less bad in our production facilities. And what we're trying to do in this project is to retrain those consultants to say, okay, let's stop looking at the end of pipe and at the doing production less bad, and saying, can we think differently in the start and do things which actually give us very different production situations? So rather than having a waste stream, we have 2 supply streams, and we're already now seeing beautiful examples of how some companies, especially in the agri-foods sector, are creating much more value and much more wealth than they were doing before by transitioning to a more resource-efficient activity, but seeing the business perspectives in that, and then using the revenues from that transition to also transition from, you could say, highly efficient but relatively environmentally harmful mass production of agri-foods using chemicals and pesticides over to organic, and using the first steps. So what we also do is to say, what is the goal in 5-10 years for this company, and how do they start tomorrow? So we go out into the 5-10 year horizon, and we stand there and we look back and say, how do we start to backcast, and what steps do we make tomorrow to be able to afford to do all the things on the goal? So we're also helping to do this road mapping towards the final goal of eco-innovation. So from that perspective, I think that if this works, it will be a very new paradigm of production, and I think it's much, much larger than the eco-design activity ever would be and could be.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.